Thank you for joining us.
Namaste.
So, today I thought we would bring a bit of focus to the back body, to creating some space in that, probably experimenting with some back bends because we spend a lot of day in flexion where we really flex. And so we're going to try to work with a little bit extension. And so I'll give you a few options with different poses and props or things you can use. So if you have a blanket or blocks or a towel, that could come in handy. If not, you just figure out something else you've got in your home that might work. Balls might work. So there's a lot of things. So let's begin. One of the simplest ways to get a little bit of extra stretch in that thoracic spine underneath the shoulder blades is, and I'll show you a few ways to do this because I have many props. So the simplest is if you roll up a towel or a blanket, and I'll show you with a few different things, and then you can place it right underneath the shoulder blades and then bring the arms out to the side. So then it's giving you a little bit of chest lift. And then if you're okay in the lower back, you can extend both legs long. And then you can decide whether you want to keep those feet and legs working so the feet are flexed, or if you just want to bring them into Shavasana. Now, because I happen to have two blocks that are the same, these ones are a little bit bigger and a little bit harder, so they may not feel quite as comfortable. Not too bad. It's a little bit high for my head, but you can come in to the blocks like so. Or the other thing I have here is these two little cushions that I could put also across. You got a pillow at home, so that feels a little bit soft for me, but I probably at this stage like the rolled blanket. But I also, in my practice at home, have balls that I roll on. And I mean, if you had a ball like this, you could just place it there between your shoulder blades or right below that and just lay on the ball like this. And that feels really good to me. I feel like I could lay here for a very long time. I'm supporting my head here just because I should have my head a little bit higher, because sometimes it's hard for people to bring opening throat a little bit, which you can do if it feels right to you. Sometimes you just want to leave that neck in neutral. So if I had the ball, I might just add the blanket under my head like that. Anyway, the idea is to just have a few breaths here, really feeling that opening in the upper chest, and how you can play with what you put underneath here. You can start with this gentle height with the rolled little blanket or a rolled towel, and you can make the towel thicker in the roll and then come back down for a few breaths. So see if you can feel that length, that opening a little bit in the front body gives you down the whole front of your body, which then creates more space in the lungs and that whole front side of the body. And this is good any time of day, but you know, you might have been working at the computer for a few hours, so this might be good to come back to do for a little few minutes and then go back to working on the computer. It can be really helpful. The other useful thing is by laying down using gravity, you can really use gravity to say get the shoulders closer to the floor, things like that. So gravity is a really useful tool in any kind of yoga practice. And take a few more breaths here. And then slowly bend the knees up. And you can just roll to your side to remove whatever prop you had. And then come back down. Just take a few breaths into the back of the body. See if you notice anything, any difference in the sensation, or maybe you notice a new sensation. Just pay attention to that. And then interlock the fingers and place them under your head. You can also bring them down to your side if that is more comfortable. And bring the knees into your chest. Extend through the heels, and perhaps the legs will be a little bit lower. And then we're going to do a few leg raises. Exhale, coming down. Inhale, bringing the knees in. Because it's going to help to have core support when we try to create more length in the back body. Extend through those heels, bending the knees in, extend up, exhale in. And then when you're almost to the floor, inhale, straight legs up, bend the knees into the chest, press through the heels, scooping the legs up, bending the knees into the chest, press through the heels. And then do two more of these. Release the legs. And if you want to, you can press into the feet and just shake out the torso. And then roll to your side. And we'll do a little bit of upward facing dog. And this is where it helps if you have two blocks that are the same that you could put up front. But you don't need them. And there's ways to modify it. So you could start with the hands on the mat. You could bring the hips in front of the knees and just come into this version of upward facing dog. So you really press the hands, lift the chest, and then you can go into big toes together, knees wide. Again, if you have the blocks, you can still do the same exact pose with the hips in front of the shins and just lift the chest up. The blocks just give us a little bit more space, a little bit more room to play around. But it doesn't mean you can't do this with just the straight mat, because of course you can. And then come down into big toes together, knees wide. And then inhale again, coming up into the beginning variation of lifting the chest into upward facing dog. Go back into big toes together, knees wide. Now, there's two more versions you can play with, and you can also, as I said, be without the blocks. Is you can come in and tuck the toes under and come to upward facing dog like this. Now you have to really work the legs here, so you try to straighten through the heels. Or if you feel okay with tops of the feet on the floor, you can come on to this traditional version, but you really need to press those feet and shins to the floor and lift the thighs off. So that's going to be a little bit more work. And then exhale, come into big toes together, knees wide. So then I'll demonstrate with the two blocks. And you can do it whichever version works for you. So with the two blocks, if I come in here, like you can always stay at that first level, or you can come to the second level where you tuck your toes under, really working back into those heels. So you're really working the legs. Or you can come into the third version with the shins and the feet, tops of the feet on the floor. Really work those legs. And then bring the knees down into big toes together, knees wide. Now we're going to add downward dog to the mix. And I guess I'll show you without the blocks. But of course, we can go the simple version to the harder version with the hands on the floor. So the first version would be coming into upward facing dog like this. Then tuck the toes under and roll down into downward facing dog. And then inhale into plank. You would drop the knees down, place the feet on the floor, come to upward facing dog. Then tuck the toes under into downward facing dog. Now for the next version, you would inhale into plank, keep the feet there, come to upward facing dog, and then come back down to downward facing dog. So there's not a lot of change with your feet in this version. Again, this version is inhale into plank, exhale there, inhale to upward dog, down, exhale to downward dog. And then the final version, if you're up to it, and if you don't want to do that one, go back to the other version, is inhale into plank, exhale there. Then you would roll forward, bring the feet down, but lift the legs up, downward dog. Then you'd roll back over the feet and come into downward facing dog. And again, that version is inhale to plank, exhale there, roll over to the top of the feet to upward, then roll over the toes to downward. So some people's feet won't be too tolerant of that, so you can make those adjustments. And then just everybody come down to big toes together, knees wide. And we'll just do it like I've given you a lot of variations, and I'm just going to show you one set of each with the blocks, And you can just follow along, have your hands on the mat, and do whichever version is working for you today. So I'm in big toes together, knees wide. I'm going to come up into the first version, which is still on your shins, hips forward. Got to come into plank first. Into plank. Bring the knees down, upward. Tuck the toes under again. Go into downward. And then I'm going to go into the second version. Inhale to plank. Keep my feet there. Inhale again to upward. Exhale to downward. And then the last version. Inhale to plank. Exhale there. Inhale to upward. Rolling over the feet into downward. And then bring the knees down and go into big toes together, knees wide. So when you have the blocks, it just gives you a little more space for the arms and the shoulders here. And then, of course, without the blocks, you'd be here with the arms forward. And then inhale, come up, tuck the toes to downward facing. And then bring the right foot between your hands. And of course, this is where the blocks come in handy. And keep the legs here. And slowly bring the hands up to the thigh. If that feels all right, you can bring the arms up. And if you want a little bit more chest opener, you can really lift the chest up to the ceiling. Now you have to really work the abdominals here, work the legs here. And then slowly bring the arms down by the foot. Bring that foot back, and you can come into downward dog. If you feel up to it, you can come into your version of plank, upward facing, and downward facing. And then bring the left foot between the hands. Really grounding into those feet. Hands can come up onto the thigh. You're feeling well grounded. You can inhale, arms up. If you want more opening in the front body, you can really extend back even further, looking up. And then bring the hands down, and you can go into the half vinyasa if you like, or you can stay here, or you can go on big toes together, knees wide. Inhale to plank, exhale there, inhale to upward facing, exhale to downward facing. Then step the right foot again between the hands. Take your left foot, place it down, bring the forearm onto the thigh, and you can hang out here. If you're feeling up to it, you can bring the top arm up or the top arm up and over to Parsva Konasana. bring the hand back down, pivot around the back foot, take the right foot back into downward dog. Then you can do a half vinyasa if you feel like it. Inhale into plank, exhale there, inhale to upward, exhale to downward. And then bringing the other foot between the hands, place the left foot down, bring the left forearm on the thigh, staying here, we're bringing the arm up and over. Padmasana. Pivoting those arms around, front leg to back leg. And again, you can stay here or go into one of your versions of plank, upward, downward, and come into big toes together, knees wide. So laying down on your belly, you always want to place the one hand on top of the other and just the forehead on top of your hand. This lets your head be in neutral. And so the first thing we're going to do is place the forehead down. See if you can interlock the fingers here. And then in order to come up, you need to engage the legs. So you really are working those legs so that you can lift the arms away from the sacrum. And then that lifts your chest. And then you can stay here for a few breaths, or if it's too much, you can go a little lower and then come up. So you can vary the practice to come up and down a few times, or you can just stay up and then slowly come down and change the hand crossover. And these baby back bends usually do really get the heart rate going, so it's a good aerobic portion of yoga if that's what you're seeking. So next, bring the arms shoulder width and the legs hip width. And we're going to lift the opposite arm and leg and head. So you're going to inhale, lift the right arm, left leg and head. And just feel if you're getting that length in the front body here. And then exhale down. Inhale, lift the right leg, left arm up. Couple of breaths. Exhale down. Right leg, left leg. Exhale down. I guess that was the left arm, right leg here. Exhale down. Now, we're going to lift first the legs separately. So you'll take an inhale and an exhale. And on the next inhale, just lift the legs off. They don't have to go very far. And then exhale, release down. And then really stabilizing the lower body. Inhale the arms, head, and chest. Kind of like your body surfing. And then exhale down. And on the next one, you're going to try to get both off. Or you're going to try to get the legs, the arms, and the head off. So I guess it's all three things. So take an inhale and an exhale. And then an inhale, lifting everything off like you're flying. And then exhale, coming down, make a pillow for your head, and a couple of breaths. Here. And then bring the arms down next to your side. And we will try to do full Samvasana, which is locust pose. So what I like to do is walk my fingers down so that I really get my shoulder blades rolling down and not squinching into each other, but length down with the shoulder blades. Then inhale the legs, arms, chest, head, and again, rocket ship. A couple of breaths here. And then bringing the legs down, make a little pillow with your hands. A couple of breaths. And then roll to your side. And this is where it's helpful to have a block, but I'll show it to you on a ball. I'll show it to you on the block. So you can have pillows as well. We're going to go into a supported bridge pose. If you have a ball, you just place it under your sacrum. Now this ball isn't sort of high enough to give me, more length, but it's a start. So you're trying to bring those feet in as close as you can. Now for me, the block works well, and especially when I place my sacrum on this edge of it, where I have to come onto my toes to get up here. And then you can see I get more length here. So if you have pillows, you can sometimes stack pillows to make it a little bit higher. But it's great when you can invest in at least one yoga block that's really stable and solid, like these cork ones are. You can get nice ones that, are softer as well. And I have many different kinds. So this pose brings my chin to my chest, which makes it a little bit of like a shoulder stand pose. But by lengthening the front body like this, it's starting to go into a back bend. But it's like a gentle back bend in one way because I have all this support under the sacrum. You want to make sure those feet are parallel. You also want to press into the heels here. And then slowly take your prop away and roll down for a few minutes. And then we'll do this with no prop and just using the body in it. And we'll support the hands underneath by interlocking the fingers. So you may have to adjust by bringing your heels towards your sit bone. This is where you can look to each side and notice if your feet are trying to turn out like a ballerina or if they're staying more or less heels, toes straight in front of you. And then we're going to inhale really press up. When you interlock the hands underneath, you can press up even more into the shoulders and get a more active version, especially in those hamstrings and butt cheeks, by pressing those heels, opening that front body. And you can stay here as long as it's comfortable, or you could do a couple of rounds. And then you can roll down when it feels right. And again, one of your goals and on your own practice is you could hold it for 2 rounds of breath and come back down, maybe add another breath or two, and just practice, finding how you can extend the comfort in the pose and hold it a bit longer. And then bring the feet up to the ceiling and just hold the sides into happy baby. You can do a little bit of rocking side to side. And then depending on where you are practicing, what you have at your next to you, you can put the feet on a chair. You can go into regular Shavasana, feet up the wall, whatever you want to do as a final pose that can be your Shavasana, and just bring your body into that pose. And then just begin to soften the breath and just notice how the front body feels at the moment, perhaps how the back body feels at the moment. Perhaps you feel a bit of length in the spine. Just notice what you notice. You might notice that by doing these back bends, we have a little bit of the heart rate is a little bit faster. See if you can find a restful place. Whatever part of your body is touching the mat or the floor, see if you can really widen and soften that space. It could be along the spine. It could be through the pelvic girdle and the sacrum. Just see if you can soften the tops of the feet to the back of the feet. Softening the tops of the ankles to the backs of the ankles. Softening the shins to the calf muscles. Softening the tops of the knees to the backs of the knees. Softening the front thighs to the backs of the thighs. Softening the thigh sockets, fronts of the hips, to the sit bones in the back of the pelvis, sacrum.
belly softens back to the lower spine, front to the rib cage softens to the back of the rib cage, upper chest softens to the back of the chest, the shoulder blades. The collarbones soften back to the tops of the shoulder blades. Biceps soften into the triceps. Inner elbow softens into the point of the elbow. Inner forearm softens to the back of the forearm. Inner wrist softens to the back of the wrist. And the palms are softening to the backs of the hands. Your throat softens to the back of the neck. And your face is softening to the back of the neck. And it is indeed okay to rest. It is okay to take time out of your day to rest. And then slowly begin to deepen your breath, bringing a little bit of movement into your hands, your fingers, your toes. Slowly roll to your side, knowing that it's okay anytime during the day you need to, you can rest. Come up to sitting. And thank you for being with me, and namaste. thank you for watching and joining us. And namaste.